Colin Cowherd, as I said to Sal, the Bills, what's the famous, somebody in the Mets broadcast once says, like, your butt's in the jackpot, you're at, anyway, the Bills are squarely in the crosshairs of, hey, what's going on with that team right now? And, well, we talk about them all the time. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. Turkey for Tickets still rolling along for another hour. Brian Duff saying a little lighter than past years, so maybe you can help be a part of it and help drop off $20 of frozen turkey of 20 pounds or more, not $20, 20 pounds or more, and you get a voucher for tickets to a Buffalo Sabres game. Key Bake Surface Lot, Tops in West Seneca, Tops in Tonawanda on Yonge Street. Those are your three places to drop those off, so thank you in advance. And again, benefiting the Buffalo City Mission and Feed More, Western New York. Joe Marino joins us on the Western Hotline. And Joe, we got a lot to get to. I'm gonna take a big picture view question first. I had a Twitter poll yesterday where I said, all right, how bad is it? Is it bad? Is it not that bad? Or is it totally fine? So, Joe, where are we? How bad is it?
Well, I don't think it's completely awful. I mean, the Bills are a 6-3 football team, and you know there's some good things that's happening with this team. And we've seen them kind of have their lulls in the past. We've seen them have games like the one against Miami, and they kind of rally and come through. And I think the concern with that is maybe they do rally and come through and go on a run and go be able to win a playoff game or two. But I think everyone's ready for a little bit more than that, right? And you're desperate for this team to get over the hump. And so I think the same script is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a different script where we're hoping to see a true run at the number one seed and a team that can get over the hump in the postseason. And it's hard to kind of buy into this team being the one that has the breakthrough. And so I think that's kind of where it all stems. I'm sure the Bills will make the playoffs. I'm sure the Bills might even win a playoff game or two, but can they do the whole thing? That's what we want them to do, and I think some of that doubt's creeping in. Yeah,
I haven't thought about this yet, but like, what's different for this team in previous years? Is it that they're not just losing goofy games by a point or on a stupid play? Like, yes, they lost New England on a field goal, but they were down 10 late in that game. Yeah. And they have two other double-digit losses. Like, that's what's uncharacteristic. I'm thinking back to when they ran the table and caught Miami. Like, that's a year where they probably didn't have multiple double-digit losses. The Bills had that long stretch of how many games in a row without losing by more than one score.
Yeah, you'd watch the Bills lose in the past, and you're like, oh, well, I can't believe it took all of those things to go wrong for the Bills to lose a close game. Now lots of things go wrong and they lose by multiple scores. Not all the time, but, like you said, 2 times already this year, and the Patriots game was certainly in danger of that. And so I think you just see chinks in the armor, and I think we're more aware of it than ever because this is getting longer in this era. Josh Allen's going to be 30 in May, and you start to feel that urgency and some of that doubt, like I said, creeps in that, maybe it's not going to happen. And simultaneously, the threat in the division is real. For the first time, it's actually real. And, yeah, Miami's kind of given them a couple of runs, but I don't know. It was always like this expectation that they're going to collapse, the Bills are going to go on a run, and it's going to happen. Now it's like the Bills need help to beat out the Patriots, and I think it's probably unlikely that they can do it this year. Jeremy, you made a good point. Like, even if they beat New England, now that they have a second divisional loss, you need New England to lose to either the Jets or Dolphins to have a chance at that tiebreaker, or the common opponent thing becomes relevant. And the Bills have already lost the Falcons, and the Patriots beat the Falcons. So it's a very difficult path to see the division. And I also think that kind of creeps into this where that path is not as much on the table. And so, again, leading to more doubt.
Joe Marino with us. So what went wrong against Miami, Joe? Offensively at the start, they get behind. They look like a team that struggles when they are behind, other than the Baltimore game. So I guess, really the first half especially, but why did they get behind in that game to Miami to you?
Well, they squandered opportunities offensively. A couple of short yardage fails, whether it was the decision to punt the ball and then the decision to do the fake tush push and, not being able to convert there, combined with legitimately, I think, your 3 best scoring opportunities, you turn the ball over. I know that they scored a touchdown from distance, on the Keon Coleman play, but your best looking drives end in a Josh Allen interception, a Josh Allen fumble, and a James Cook fumble. And, it took away from your opportunities to capitalize, even though things were difficult. And I think the passing game was really unsettled, and Joe Brady wanted to run the ball a ton early. And he even said, I regret that. I shouldn't have ran the ball as much early in the game. And to me, it was always obvious that, Miami's run defense was getting better. Their secondary was depleted. Their pass rush was depleted. This was a pass-aggressive game, and they didn't come out and do those things. And Joe Brady even said, I regret doing that. And you have Josh Allen in this game holding onto the ball for an average of 3.31 seconds. That's the most of any Week 10 quarterback. He's pressured on 44% of his dropbacks. But here's the kicker. The average time to pressure was 2.82 seconds. That's the fourth longest of any quarterback in Week 10. So you have this recipe of Allen holding the ball while frequently under pressure despite the late arrival of the pressure. That's just not a good recipe. And the Dolphins, they geared up to defend the run. The Bills are running into heavy boxes. Meanwhile, the inefficiency of the run game showed up because of that, and then you couldn't make them pay throwing the football. And so you just had a messy offense and a defense that tried to keep them in it. I thought they did an admirable job, but the offense didn't score until the fourth quarter. They were 0 for 7 on possession downs in the first half. They turned the ball over 3 times. Guess what? Even if you're a 9.5-point favorite on the road, you're going to have a hard time winning that football game.
Joe, if we're looking for solutions in the path forward, where do you think it's most likely to come from? Is it that Allen starts to just play a little better? Is it that Brady, digs in and gets better answers? Is it that Gabe Davis makes a difference and Josh Palmer returns? To find their way through this and whatever. If they win the division, if they become a wild card team, once we get to the playoffs, all right, you're in, go try to win the thing. What is the most likely path to getting to a spot where they are able to do that?
I think it's this offense really finding its rhythm. Defensively, I think they're going to have some struggles just based on some of the injuries, but you kind of offset that by maybe some of the younger players continuing to develop and improve like we've seen, right? We've seen that happen on that side of the ball. So I don't know, defensively, I think there's the possibility that they have some in-season growth, but to me, the most tangible opportunity is what you do in your passing game and how you adjust. And I feel like I've been saying this for weeks, but we can't have this world where Keon Coleman is playing the most snaps. He has 425 snaps played this year. The next highest receiver is Shakir at 362. And then third is Tyrell Shavers at 193. Two of your top 3 snap takers at receiver are Coleman and Shavers, and those are depth. Those should really be depth players. Those are 4th, 5th, 6th receiver type players. Meanwhile, Elijah Moore, 159 snaps. Curtis Samuel, 123 snaps. I'm not trying to sell those guys as more than nice ancillary pieces, but they're not even ancillary pieces. To me, those players need to be getting more opportunity, playing over those players. I think you got to get Gabe Davis going at some point here. I know that there's a process there to do that the right way, but you can't ignore that Gabe Davis has had meaningful production with Josh Allen. And I'm not a big Gabe Davis guy, but that's kind of where we're at. And I think the bar to clear being, can you be better than Coleman or Shavers, is not a hard one to clear, to find an opportunity to get better at that spot. And so I'd be thinking about those combinations. And, of course, getting Kincaid and Palmer healthy is critical. Those are your best separation guys. Those are your best down-the-field players. And it's somewhat not surprising that as we've seen those challenges for this offense, it goes hand in hand with those players not being available. So I think you got to shake up kind of your receiver usage and then, of course, get your best ones back on the field.
2-part question for you on Kincaid. First off, what do you make of I think one accusation about this Bills offense is that Kincaid is obviously very good, and when he gets targeted, it works. But his presence on the field makes them too predictable. Do you buy that when he's off, they're more likely to run? When he's on, they're more likely to pass? And whether it's they don't have enough faith in his blocking, that there's a little bit too much of a tell there. Do you think there's any merit to that?
Probably. I think the percentage-wise of snaps that Kincaid's on the field and how many of those are passes, it's pretty high. I actually had this conversation with Dan Fates a couple weeks ago, and those numbers do say that, hey, it's a tell. But it's kind of working, though. You see
sure.
the efficiency, the yards per route run with Dalton Kincaid this year, it's off the charts. And I think that just speaks to, maximizing Kincaid. I think there's a limitation conversation to be had about, what he can really give you as an inline blocker. But it's also the other side of that is, you optimize his role by using him in the ways that are most effective. And I think that's kind of the trade-off with a player like Kincaid. And so, unfortunately, he has been injury prone, right? That's been a real thing over the last few years, and it doesn't seem to be going away with an oblique, a hamstring this year so far, the knee, the shoulder last year, both knees, I guess, last year. And so I guess when I look at it through that lens, I want his reps to be the most meaningful one. And so I think it's kind of the trade-off with Kincaid, and it's unfortunate. Obviously, he's a really, really dynamic pass-catching threat, and I think that's just kind of what he is.
The second part of it is, and this might be like reaching too hard for something, is there an opportunity with his absence here to maybe, I don't know, for Joe Brady to cross things up a little bit, maybe break his own tendencies? And could the Bills maybe with that, like making the best out of a situation that you don't want? I'm not here to say they're better without Kincaid, or they will be, but right. Is there an opportunity there?
Yeah, I certainly think so. And I think a lot of that comes from your slot role, right? Like that's what Kincaid really is for this team, is a big slot. And so that, to me, creates opportunities to consider other things, whether that is some more Elijah Moore, whether that is some Coleman in the slot, where I think most people would agree that he's better to perform there, but maybe it doesn't necessarily make the Bills' offense better because they have better slot options. But here's your path, right? Kincaid's not in there. Be more creative with who you give those opportunities to in the slot. And so maybe there's some opportunity there to evolve and adjust and change some of the roles around that could lead to a better product. So you pick Kincaid in his availability every single time, but perhaps there is a silver lining.
Joe Marino with us. Joe, how bad do you think it is with Coleman right now? I heard you talk about how there were maybe a couple of plays that could have been there for him in this game had Allen hit it. He does make the one back shoulder touchdown, but on the whole, I mean, he's playing a lot. He's not getting open. Defenses don't seem to be respecting him all that much. Like, how dire is it? Like, is it as bad as it sounds? Because I think everybody is coming for Coleman right now in this passing offense.
Yeah, I actually feel kind of bad for Keon Coleman. To me, he's being asked to fill a role that is inappropriate. I don't think that he's done anything to justify the volume of snaps he plays or the targets that he gets. And that's unfortunate because when you put somebody in there to do something that they're not up to the task to do, they're not going to perform well, and it leads to a lot of criticism. And so, look, Coleman's got his own limitations. He's not ready for the role that he's in. But to me, I want to start to put that criticism more in who's culpable for him being out there and being asked to do these things, and that's his coaching staff. And so, I mean, it's unfortunate that Coleman hasn't become the player that they've wanted him to be. And I think about that, like, what if he was Cortland Sutton? What if he was a George Pickens type player, which is clearly what they thought he was, and he's not. But they're asking him to do that, and it's hurting the offense. And so, I think the Coleman conversation is unfortunate because it's all deflected at Coleman. And maybe there is some culpability he has, like whatever. There's been effort issues, or maybe you wish that he played it up throw a different way, or whatever. But ultimately, he's not up to the task, and he's receiving that criticism. And I really want to start pointing that back at the coaching staff for putting him in a spot that he's not really capable of filling right now.
There's also it's like trying to figure out like who's really at fault for the current state of it. Like the culpability of Brady for Coleman. Or for even Shakir, not being used in certain ways. Like that one might be maybe more a Brady question, Joe, is Shakir, I saw, has only 3 receptions of over 10 yards, air yards so far this year. And I feel like we're always doing this dance with Coleman and Shakir. Like, what are they capable of that you're not already asking them to do? And is that a Brady thing? Or is that, no, that's what you gave him, and this is really all he can do with players that have limitations?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth to the Bills and their offensive weapons in the passing game being very role-specific. And they have their different roles that they want different players to fill, and there's not as much on their plates. And I wish there was. I wish there was more that they asked out of some of these players as opposed to, hey, Khalil Shakir's our screen guy, and Coleman's our 50-50 guy, and, we're going to get some horizontal things going with Moore and Samuel, and Palmer's our route runner, so whenever we want to dial up a go get a bucket or a play action where you're going to uncover, we'll have Palmer do that, and Kincaid's our power slot. I don't know, predictability or specialization makes it easier to be predictable. And so I worry about that. I don't think there's enough complete skill sets, and I don't think that they maximize the skill sets that they have. And they really want it to be role specific. And so you have this offense that's predicated on efficiency. And, we talked about Coleman not quite being the do everything X receiver that I think the Bills envision him to be. And then you combine that with some protection breakdowns and maybe some Josh Allen execution errors, and it takes away from the efficiency of an offense that's rooted on efficiency. And to me, it reduces your margin for error a little bit and has led to some challenging offense for this Bills team. But I think within those roles, the injuries to the roles matter. And, I think probably if you look at it, your four most important roles are Coleman, Shakir, Kincaid, and Palmer. Two of those guys aren't available, and one of them's not up to the role that he's being asked to fill. It's kind of a tough equation for it to be consistent.
Joe, you tweeted yesterday, Morgan Fox needs to be signed. The Bills worked him out. He could help them on defense. I want to get to what's happened with the defense. I feel like with the defense, we've seen, big problems, but some positives, and of course, so many injuries on that side of the ball that it's kind of a tough evaluation. What do you like about Morgan Fox? Where would he fit in? And how do the Bills get through this stretch of what's happened to their defense?
Well, I like Morgan Fox because I think he's a proven rotational, versatile defensive lineman in the NFL, and I think the Bills are at a point where they need that. I think you're realistically your defensive line rotation features three very shaky players in Phi Mathis, Jordan Phillips, and Javon Solomon, where those guys are getting reps right now, and those are not ideal players to have on the field. Again, low bar to clear. I think that Morgan Fox would be a better option than those guys on the field. And so to me, it's just like, how do you upgrade even your worst parts of your roster? And to me, that becomes very obvious to me that you can upgrade there with a player like Morgan Fox. As far as the defense, I'm really nervous about the run defense. It's not improving. I think they've been able to mask some of it, but right now, the Bills they're 27th in EPA against the run. They're giving up 8.2 explosive run percentage, which is 15 yards or more. That's fourth highest in the league. They allow 0.21 missed tackles forced per attempt, which is number 2 in the league. They allow 2.91 yards after contact per attempt, which is comfortably worst in the league. And when the Bills are going to face teams that are going to remain committed to running the football, or the Bills can't control game scripts that get teams out of being two-dimensional, I think they're going to have troubles in a big way based on the way that these linebackers are playing, based on the way these defensive tackles are playing. And so that's why this game script stuff becomes really important. That's why this passing game coming alive becomes really important, because I don't have an easy answer there.
Yeah.
I think that they're shaky with their personnel, and kind of the way that they choose to play schematically creates some challenges. And so that's why I put so much of this back on this passing offense to come together as a piece that can help overcome some of the deficiencies on the roster.
Tampa this week, before I let you go, get your thoughts on that matchup. Will the Bucs maybe do well? They've got a lot of injuries as well, right? No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin.
Bucky Irving as well. I feel like Bucky Irving would be a very bad matchup for this Bills defense because he forces so many missed tackles. So what do you like about the matchup for the Bills?
Well, what I like is you have a Bucs team that I think is searching for some answers offensively. I think they're in a bit of a rut offensively themselves. Their third down numbers are bad. Their red zone numbers are bad. I mean, they're kind of middle of the pack with other efficiency type metrics. And I think it just speaks to, a banged up team. It's not just like those skill players. They got a couple pieces on their offensive line as well that haven't been available to them. And so first year coordinator, it's been tough for that side of the ball to come together. And so what I like about the Bills is that I don't know that they're Baker's a really good player. I certainly have a ton of respect for Baker. You guys know that. But I think he's in a kind of a Josh Allen situation. It's to some extent, it's leading to some inconsistency. But defensively, I think they have some potency. I think they've been able to scheme up some pressure, which concerns me a big deal. But they've been a little shaky on that side of the ball too. So I think Tampa's a lot like the Bills, where they've had some wins that you're kind of impressed with, but some shaky moments, some inconsistency, some injuries on both sides of the ball, and so I think you like that you're at home in this one.
All right. Joe Marino, Locked on Bills podcast. We've been talking to Joe on Wednesdays all the way back, formerly at the Draft Network. Joe, I feel like when we started talking, it was receiver stuff in the draft.
Yeah.
And, we'll see where this offseason brings us. Linebacker.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying linebacker to everybody that wants to listen about the draft.
Linebacker.
Right? Joe, come on. First round pick. It's linebacker, right?
Oh, you know what? We got a long time to figure out.
Just saying. Anyway, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk, draft season. Hopefully we've got a lot more football before that shows up. Thanks, Joe.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Joe Marino of the Locked on Bills podcast. Find everything he does at the Joe Marino, thejoemarino.com. Herd Mentality Substack is all 22 stuff. All good stuff. Always good stuff.